Hello and welcome back to my renovation vlog. This is week 5 and I had some really big wins, it felt like. Feels like a positive week, and I also had some major shockers and surprises. So here I am to tell you all about it. If we haven't met yet, my name is Karen McMillan and I am renovating my house. I'm doing the planning, the design, and then I'm going to manage the construction myself as well, which is something that I haven't done yet. I share weekly updates on my progress every single Monday, so subscribe to follow along as I share my big wins and essential lessons from one very cost-conscious homeowner to another. So, as I said, I had a really big week. On Monday, I'm just going to go through it sort of week by or day by day. On Monday, I got my stair drawings together because I thought that that was going to be a really big item that was going to come out of my budget. One of the things in my layout that I want to do is actually move the stairs, and by move, you can't just move stairs. They're going to be required. I'm getting new ones basically. They're going to follow a little different layout and they're going to a new location, so I need to get new stairs done. So I had a vision in my mind for the design that I wanted, and so what I really needed to do was draw it out so that I would have something to send to stair manufacturers so that they could reference something real instead of me just saying, well, this is here, this is here. So I'm going to share that with you right now. So this is the stair design that I did. This is sort of the layout of the stairs. So, and this is, I'm just looking at the main floor here, but there's also a basement. So the stairs are going to be almost mimicked going down. But I really wanted to focus on just the main dimensions for the main floor and what you'd see. So there's a landing here. If you're upstairs on the top floor, there's a landing here. You step here and then you go down the steps, and then there's another landing here, and then you go down 2 more steps. On the basement level, you won't have these extra 2 steps because the ceilings are shorter. So these 2 won't be there. So for structurally, it really just needs to be, it's basically a rectangle for this level and for that one. And these stairs are just going to sit on the floor. So that's the main, those are the dimensions that we're looking with. Here are some other drawings that I wanted to share. Let's see which to do first. Okay, here's the elevation. So this is what you would see, from the side if there were no floors or anything, and you could look at it exactly flattened. So this is what we call an elevation, and this is what it would look like, so you get an idea. So it's got these 2 stringers on either side, and then some sort of a meshy type thing here, and then obviously this mesh would be too big. This example is shown because kids could put their fingers in there and climb, which goes against the code and my sanity, and so that the actual mesh would get different. But again, this was just sort of an inspirational thing to get just to get some ballpark quotes on how much this would cost. So we've got stairs up to the main floor, and then we've got the main floor. They come out here, walk around, and then they could go up again here, and then we've got the guard along the opening on the top floor. So that's the elevation. Here is one of the isometric views of the stairs. So you can kind of see just how it would look with the double steel stringers and going down and around. And here's another one that's sort of a little more flat. Okay. Which is pretty cool. And then here is an in situ one. So I've been working on my 3D render of what I want my house to be, and this is a little sneak peek of it. So this is how I envision it being in my actual house. And so these 5 files are what I sent to some stair manufacturers. And I didn't hear back right away. It took them a few days. I spoke to both of them. One of them has still not responded. The other one has. And so I won't make you wait for my big shocker. Can you guess how much this quote came back at? I'll just give you a hint. For the 2 sets of stairs, and actually the second set, I even said make it simpler because I don't really need it being that fancy on just going down to the basement. Similar, but not this fancy. $55,000. $55,000, which is well outside my stair budget. Like so far outside my stair budget, you would not believe. So apparently I have very expensive design tastes. I can laugh about it, but inside I'm crying because I'm not going to get these beautiful stairs that I want, which is very unfortunate. But that's okay because on to the next thing, right? I'm going to still work within this general design style that I love and come up with another design. Also, I have to wait for the other stair manufacturer to get back to me. And I'm going to try out another few different manufacturers and see what they come back with. The other thing that I'm going to do is try and break it down and find out what parts of this are the most expensive. What could I do instead? Maybe the mesh is actually causing 30,000 of the 55,000, and that's not necessary. This is not mandatory. This was a design inspiration just to get the juices flowing to see what it would come back at, right? So obviously the exact permutation that I've drawn is not going to work within my budget, but it doesn't mean that the whole idea is shot or that I can't get a similar vibe doing it some other way. I think he quoted me with full steel double stringers the whole way down. Maybe going towards a mono stringer is going to be, well, that would definitely cut down on the steel, which I know is very expensive. So that's something I'm looking into. Also, maybe the mesh idea isn't going to work out, or maybe they've got different materials that are actually going to be significantly cheaper that are going to give me the same vibe. So one of the things I'm going to do for next week, mark my words, is to go back and have some more conversations with this one particular manufacturer to see what they can do and how we can get costs down with a similar vibe, what recommendations they have for me to make sure that this is going to be within my budget. Again, I'm going to call some other manufacturers and get other quotes to find out what else other companies have to offer. And I'm going to see what other designs I could come up with that are going to be a little bit cheaper, or even just come up with different ways that I can be really creative to make things cheaper for me. So things like, maybe I don't need the fanciest of fancy woods that they've probably accounted for in the quote, right? Lots of these companies sort of start high and then you can easily whittle it back. Similar to what I was talking about with the windows, I've had to sort of consider taking away some of the cool window features that I really want, but we'll see. So nothing is built. Nothing is set in stone yet. It's all to be determined. So that is what happened with my stairs, and more on that next week. That was Monday. The other thing I did on Monday is I reached out to the old architect that I had used previously way back a few years ago to get some original drawings done. And so I've reached out to them to see where we could, what they would think about this project and how much their quote's going to be. So I met with them actually on Wednesday. We had a meeting. I shared my drawings with them, and we had a great discussion. And of course, that's where I had another huge cost hiccup surprise that I wasn't expecting. The architect on the phone said that there's a very good chance that, well, what I already expected is that I'm going to have to go through this whole zoning review, because this is going to be a variance from the existing zoning, because I have this tiny little extension out the front where I want to take advantage of the space where my porch is. And so I want to bump out the house there because the bottom structure is already there in the basement. So the foundation, the footings, the walls, that's already there. So I really just want to build up a tiny little bit and take over a few little square feet. But of course, that's still going to trigger a zoning variance, and therefore I'll have to go through this committee of adjustments, and it'll draw out my entire process by months and months and months, which is a big pain in the rear end. But as part of that, they're going to require a property survey, and I have one from when the house was built in 78, but she flagged that they will probably insist on me getting a new one done, which is probably going to cost me $3,000 to $4,000. How bogus is that? $3,000 to $4,000 just on a survey when I already have one. It's just mostly illegible because it's from 78 and they didn't have computers back then. They do, but they definitely did not record documents well. But it is hand-drawn, actually. So anyway, so that's my update there. It's probably going to cost me an arm and a leg to just get the permit, which is going to be ridiculous if I have to get a new property survey. So we'll see on that one what she says this week. So that was Wednesday. I'm going to have to update my timeline if all of that goes through, because the permit process is probably going to take a little bit longer than I had accounted for in my schedule, which is fine. So probably I won't be able to start right away in September as I was really hoping for, but we will see. TBD on that one. On Thursday, I met with an old friend of mine who is a contractor who helped us with some previous projects way back in the day, who is great. And I wanted to talk to him about some of these changes to the structure, some of these big, like the tiny extension that I'm planning, as well as some of the other big major structural changes that I'm working toward, because They are going to be pretty major, and that's the one area I don't have a ballpark for yet. I have a number in my head, but I haven't been able to speak to anyone yet about what that is actually going to look like financially, and if I can even afford this whole project. Isn't it crazy that I'm going along this path and I don't yet know from a structural standpoint if I can afford it. So that's where I've finally gotten to have this conversation. And the reason it's taken me so long, again, is because you have to kind of get far enough along in the process with your assumptions, and in order to make drawings that are going to be something that you can share, right? It's not good enough to just invite someone into your house and say, here's kind of what I want to do. What do you think? They can't think through all of that stuff on the spot and give you a number. And it's not going to have enough information required, right? So that's why you have to go through this process. You have to work on some assumptions. You've got to go with your gut instinct to a point when you can validate some of those assumptions. And this is the point that I'm at. So I've been going along for the past 4 weeks with the assumption that I'm going to be able to afford this somehow, because I know that somehow I will. Somehow I will make all of this happen. And this is just a matter of rejigging and jigging again until I can figure out the exact permutation. So I know I can do it. I know I will. But regardless, I do need a ballpark to figure out how much the structural stuff is going to cost, because that's the biggest unknown. That's the single biggest unknown, apart from the $55,000 stairs. But even that's something I can change. So like I'm in control of everything, but the structural costs are kind of a big thing. Because they do need to be executed by another party, because, me and my muscles are not quite enough to hoist beams in the air, so I'm going to have to hire this out. So anyway, I met with the contractor, I explained my process that I envision and the project, and so I gave him my drawings that I will actually show you in just a second as well. So I sent him my structural drawings. One of the things I said I would do last week was get done my SHEP drawings, my 2D SHEP drawings, which is structure, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. Well, I didn't get all 4 of them done, but I did the structure. I did the structure at least. And that way I was able to ship that off to him so that he can come back and chat with his partner, and they do these types of structural things. So they're going to get back to me with a ballpark based on that. And then now I'm also in a position where I can send that off to other people. So actually I did send it over to a friend of mine who also knows someone, a contact, and so she's going to forward my drawings to her friend, and so I'll get multiple quotes, because that's what it's all about, right? It's the quotes that you get back on these types of projects. It could be crazy different, hundreds of thousands in difference, or it could be a small one, but it's for the same job. It's incredible the amount of variation you should expect with quotes. So you want to get a lot, because otherwise you have no way to judge. So this friend of mine could come back and it could be really high, and that could be legitimate, or it could be lower and legitimate. Like, I just don't know yet. So I'm going to get multiple quotes. So he's got one, sent out for another one. So hopefully by next week, I'll start to get some more ballparks in for what this looks like. So that was Thursday. And then Friday I had an epic brain change wave, whatever you want to call it. It was huge. I had been sort of pondering all week about my layout, and there was this one detail that kept annoying me, and that was when you walk down the stairs from the top floor into the main floor, you would be presented with a wall. Actually, you can kind of see it here on this drawing right here. If you walk down these stairs, you can just see right here is the edge of where I had a cabinet. And it was a full-size wall. And I didn't love that. I hated that you just come down the stairs and just into a wall, especially because it was, with the layout I had, it was quite a tight little walkway. It was just the bare minimum you need of 3 feet. And I was just like, it's not enough space for a stairwell. And I could have gotten by with it, but I wasn't loving it. And so I just said, I've got to figure this out. There is something nagging at me. This is not working. I've got to figure out a new solution here. But I loved the sort of the other side of it. So let's go back here and look at it. So this was the plan view of it. So you can see obviously my old as-built layout right here. And then this is how this was the new layout that I showed you yesterday, right? So specifically we're looking here at the kitchen. So you come down the stairs, smack into this wall here. And I put it here because this gives me the perfect layout for the kitchen, right? I love this layout here. I love having the fridge on some, like, not necessarily wall, but on this side, so that you have the perfect layout between, you've got the fridge, the stove, and the sink. The fridge should be the one that's over here on the side. It should be in a large cabinet set, so you can fill that up with, thick 24-inch deep pantry cupboards, that type of stuff. And you have that on this wall so that you can have your stove and your sink beside each other. That is really critical. And then you've got your island, which is free from everything else. It is just a big open space. That is the ideal workflow setup for a kitchen. That's why I have it inside my greatest kitchen layout of all time. If you've downloaded that, you would recognize it. So I was really happy with this part, but I could not get past this. The other thing is just that it's not as open as I would like. I've always wanted this to be a very open concept thing. I'm taking down walls to open things up. And that's primarily for just light and the flow. And so that I can, wherever I am in the house, I can see what else is happening. And not just see, but participate in it. Because what I have right now, if you look over here, right, is I'm in the kitchen prepping in this one tiny, tiny little corner. This is the only prep space I have. It looks like this would be a countertop, and it is, but it's full of stuff, and there's a microwave like right there, so you can't really do anything. And this is where the dirty dishes pile up because this is a dishwasher. So you really only have this tiny little space as prep space. So I'm standing here chopping up stuff for dinner, and my, rellies, when they're over, are way down here having a conversation, right? Because this is where the couch is and the TV and stuff, right up almost against the window. So it's a huge difference. We're talking about almost 40 feet away from where I am to where they are. So I can't participate in that conversation, right? They can't hang out in the kitchen. Anytime they do, they lean against this cabinet or this cabinet, and I always need to get in there. I'm almost like, oh, can you just move? Just for a second, I just need to get a knife. Oh, I just need to get this from the microwave. Chaos. Anyway, so that's why we're doing this, Reno. Little background info that you probably didn't need, but I think is helpful. So over here, I wanted this to be more open. So with this here, it was just driving me nuts. And so I came up with a solution. Are you ready? All right, 2D new. Check this out. Okay, look at the size of this island. So I decided to put the fridge and the pantry that we're sticking out here up against this wall, which is not my truly ideal layout to have sort of a galley style with the core 3, because my triangle is now a line. It's not the worst, I think, because really the triangle is with the prep space. Really, like if you worked it, it's kind of more of it's not a square. It's definitely not a square, but it has a fourth touch point, right? The whole idea of the work triangle is great, but the prep zone, the space on your island has to be right in the middle of that, and that still is the case, and in fact is actually better in some ways. Which I think is a really neat little surprise that I wasn't expecting how much I actually love this, because then the fridge has its own sort of space here. It's still got the drop zone, it's still got all the kitchen requirements. And then, your main prep space is actually still going to be over here in between, because what do you use the most? What are you going back and forth from? It's not your fridge. That's why your fridge could always be off on the side, because you're not constantly in your fridge. Otherwise, you would never keep anything cold, right? You're always working between your prep space and your stove and your sink. Those are the three things, right? If you were to focus on just the top two of the spaces plus your prep space, that's what you're primarily doing. And that is still great. And really, the amount of distance between the fridge being here versus here, it's the same walking distance. So it's not going to feel awkward. It's not going to feel like, oh, that's no longer a triangle, because it's basic. It's, 2 steps up in the other direction. Instead of that way, it's going that way. So I don't see it as being a big issue. And that way, this is all going to feel so much more open visually, right? You can see from front all the way to the back of the house, which is what I wanted. And when you come down the stairs, you're going to have this beautiful view of the whole new kitchen, which I think is going to be incredible. And I'm so excited about it. So, and then I get this huge island. But guess how big this island is? 17 and a half feet. I mean, I can't even get my mind around it. It's just going to be a giant piece of furniture, but super, super functional. It's going to be full of storage. And I think it's going to be incredible. So if you look just a little zoomed in here on this drawing, so these are all 30-inch wide cabinets. And then I've got little strips here for power outlets, which is going to be neat. A little bookcase on this end, open bookshelf case thing like that for recipe books, Kleenex, your hand cream, all those essential things you need in a kitchen but don't want to have up on a counter. And then on this side, I'm debating what this will be, if I want to have it as sort of open glass cabinets, because I do have some storage that I want to be able to have that's free of dust. So I don't want everything to be open. Things like, your cake holder and some jugs and stuff like that. So it would be nice to actually use that as a closed, with some closed doors, but visible. So I'm thinking about some sort of open glass cabinetry on the ends. And then these will be another couple of sets of drawers. And then this under here is a not hidden, but second set, a bank of cabinets, just for that extra overflow storage that we won't need to access often, because we're going to have 5 old stools there in this space here, which I think is going to be so awesome. It's not impeding with the flow. You actually have now a wider walkway here, which is great. So that's 3.5 feet just about, which is good. And then, and this is 3.5 feet on this side. So it's going to be really open and amazing. So people can flow through, but they're still going to stay out of my kitchen, which is still nice and protected. So I'm really excited about this change that I made. So that has, and the other thing is, financially, this is not going to make a big difference. Where we're going to spend a little bit more on, whatever countertop we have, we will have a little bit less in some of the cabinetry, but I think we're getting more storage out of this altogether. So, it might be a slightly more, but it's not going to be catastrophic, because it's really taking up the same amount of space for the most part, which is amazing. So I'm really excited about that, which is great. I wanted to show you that. And now that I've shown you that, I can actually show you the type of drawings that I sent to the contractor and my friend to send to the other guy for the structure. So here we go. So this is what I sent over to the contractor. Let's bring that up into view. So you can see here, I have the original as-built layout, and then I've got my new layout, and I did this just on Friday so that I could incorporate the new layout I was talking about. And then I also have where the new structure would be. So that's all the pink stuff. And I have this just as a tag that I can turn on and off inside my model, which is really cool. And that way you can see it without, and you can see it with on, and it just acts as a layer that goes burp, burp, burp as I click on and off the little eyeball, which is really cool. So this outlines exactly where all the areas I'm going to need new structure, so that he could give me a ballpark quote based on these actual figures. So that's what I thought was really cool. So that was my week. I've got a lot of quotes out there that I'm waiting for, numbers coming back to me that I will hopefully get this week. I've also got to get a lot more of those quotes out there for more of these components, especially more of the structural stuff, because I'm looking forward to figuring out how much that's going to cost and just continuing to move forward. I'm also going to try this week to get my HVAC plan done. Now that I've got structure out of the way, I feel like I can do my HVAC, which is always next in the list because it's the next biggest thing. So I'm going to work on that and continue to see how this layout feels. I've got to do a little bit more. I'm going to do some more quotes for cabinetry now that I have this updated layout. I've only sent out I did the IKEA list, and I've sent out for one to a semi-custom provider. So I'm still waiting for that number to come back. And then I'm also going to send out, now that I've got my new layout, and send out to a new one, see what the old one comes back with, and probably send her my changes. Well, thanks for the quote. Here's a new one to quote. Whatever, it's not going to be that different. So that is the plan for the week, and hopefully I don't have any more of these huge honkin' surprises that are way outside my budget, like the stairs, but I'll keep you posted on that saga at the same time. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week.